Okay, I think we'll make a start. Thank you very much for joining us. My name's Carl. I'm the school's relationship manager at the University of Exeter. I'm joined today by my colleague Vicky Glazer, who's part of my team. And our aim for today is to give you an insight into choosing a course for higher education. So that's giving insight into the choices and how you make them. And then we're going to focus on personal statements. So we're going to actually look at the detail of personal statements, what university is looking for, and how you can best prepare a good personal statement for to support your application to university. So we're going to start by looking very quickly at the aims for today. So it's very much looking at those options, looking at what's right for you. So this is a very independent, this is a very personal choice that you're going to make in terms of making those choices for higher education, and then looking at the key factors to consider when thinking of HE as a concept. So the first bit is, what are your course choices? What are those options available for you? There are over 36,000 degree courses available for students across the UK. And that can sound really overwhelming. So it can sound really like a large, high number of courses available. Now, how do you narrow it down? How do you sort of break it down to make that choice for you? I'm going to run through some different aspects of how you can make that choice and what the different types of courses available out there are. So the first thing is obviously that there is absolutely anything and everything you could possibly think of in terms of courses, from anything from your traditional subjects such as English, the histories, the sciences, classics, languages, and those can be termed as academic subjects. So those would be aligned to perhaps what you're currently doing at college. They align themselves very much to that. We then also have some subjects that may be different, some subjects that may be unique in terms of different to what you may have come across in your college setting. And those can be described as vocational subjects. So those could be things like law, medicine, veterinary science, things like graphic design, zoology, marine sciences. You have a different aspect there in terms of vocational subjects. All of those make up that 36,000 sort of different types of courses. So both the academic and the vocational side will make up those 36,000. Now, you can look through all of them and start making choices and saying, right, I want this one, I want that one. But there are also additional elements that come into play. So one of the things that you may think about doing is you may think about going for something like a combined and flexible degree options that we offer. Combined options are fixed courses that have combined two subjects normally combined together. And you can see on the screen some examples of those. So the likes of English and drama, accounting and business, you can do economics and politics. That will be a predefined list that the universities will provide to you, and you can make a choice through that. So you can have a look at that and say, I want to mix and match two subjects together and come up with the sort of that list. And those are predefined by the higher education providers. Or the other option is something like that the University of Exeter, like many other institutions, provide, which is something called the Flexible Combined Honours Programme. Now, what that does is it lists all the subjects that are part of this programme, so all the subjects that we offer, and we allow you, the individual, to make that choice of which two or three subjects you can put together and combine to make your degree programme. So rather than listing all sorts of different permutations and possible options under our joint honours programme, we give you the choice, you the option to make that choice and to select from a flexible degree programme. And that's why you can combine your likes and do things that you may currently be doing in college, or you can get totally new subjects that you may have come across and say, I want to do some modules in this subject. Excuse me, I want to do some subjects or modules in that subject, and mix it all together. So it gives you very much that choice there, those options to be able to do that. Other options we have is if you're very much interested, excited by the sciences, you're able to do something called natural sciences, which is if you think of a basket and you put subjects into it, you have choices there, options in terms of biology, chemistry, physics. And then in addition to that, you're able to do mathematics and computer science as part of that course. So that course normally would be a 4-year course where you do those subjects as part of that course. You may have a year in sort of industrial placement, which is a year in a company or a business, and you can do that. If you're not interested in the sciences and you're interested in the arts, for example, we have other opportunities like liberal arts, where again, it's a very similar approach, but with different subjects you put into this basket and then you mix and match it together. With those two courses, you will start with a very broad base, and then you'll start funneling it down, narrowing it down to one particular subject towards, or one particular area, interest area towards the end of your degree program. So you've got choices there. And the key thing here is that from these 36,000 degree courses, the choice is yours. It's very much you looking into what you're interested in, looking at what you want to study, and making that choice personal to you as an individual. To do is look at the range of higher education courses that are available. And you will currently be studying at level 3, which is doing A-levels, IB, BTECs, Welsh Bac included in that. You then move on to the next few levels, and there are different options that are available to you. So the first option is what we call the traditional route, which is doing a sort of degree entry program. That could be a level 4, and that can be a Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Sciences. That will depend on the subject you go for. You can also do a Bachelor in Engineering, or you will see two other letters there, LLB for law, or BMBS, which is our medicine program. So that would be the sort of single honours or degree honour programs you can go into, and that will be your traditional route into university. There are other options you have. So we do also offer something called degree apprenticeships. Slightly different program for that. So degree apprenticeships, you are applying to work with an employer and studying a degree at the same time. So it is a dual process that works there. Traditionally, those programs aren't based on campus, so that's you'll be based with the employer wherever they are across the UK, and you will then have possibly a day release a week, or concentrated in a much shorter period throughout the year, where you will then take time out to do your degree alongside working with the employer. But it gives you fantastic insight into your employer sort of prospects, what the employer could look like, and then gives you an insight into what future life could look like if you were to stay with them and work with them in the future. So you've got options there in terms of that program. We do also have other options. And you can see on the screen there that we have options you can go straight into level 7, and we do offer masters in science and engineering in the arts. So you've got options there that you can actually apply direct from where you are at the moment to do an integrated masters. Now those will be normally a 4-year program, so they will take 4 years to complete, but you do end up with a slightly higher qualification than the BA or the BSc. Again, a lot of this is thinking about what it is you want to study, what you want to do with it afterwards, where you want to go with it. So a lot of these decisions will be made by your personal circumstance, thinking, okay, what is it I want to do with my degree program? What do I want to get out of it? And what do I see it as a stepping stone to my next step, whatever that will be. So for some students, the degree, the BA, BSc will do that and generate that stepping stone to your next steps. For others, the integrated masters will serve that purpose too. And it's very much that personal decision about what it is you're looking for. So the key questions here are about how do you choose a course? And I'm going to cover this very quickly because I'm conscious that you're probably at a sort of slightly further stage now than perhaps we would do this slightly earlier in the process. But in terms of what it is, a lot of it will be about what matters to you. What's going to wake you up in the mornings and make you want to get out of bed and go and study and go and engage and develop a passion and excitement for the subject, rather than roll over, switch the alarm clock off and think, I'm staying in bed for another hour. So that is very much about identifying what really makes you want to study, what makes you want to engage with the academic community and really get the most out of it for you. Once you've done that, it's then about narrowing it down to the subject areas and programs that we have on offer. So a lot of this is about doing that research, really engaging with prospectuses, with websites, where we list all our disciplines and subjects and module choices, drilling down into that detail and finding out, is this really going to motivate me? Is this really what I'm really interested in? So it's very much about making that choice in that way. The next bit is considering where you want to study, and that is important. There are over 150 higher education providers across the UK. You need to consider where you want to study, how far away from home you want to be, whether that matters. For some people it will, for others it won't. Some people would prefer to pop by every weekend and drop washing off, whereas others are quite happy to do theirs in location. So a lot of it will be about very personal to you, what it is you want and how far away you want to study, and what it is that the area that you're going to study in offers to you as an individual. So I keep coming back to this. Really important to actually look at that research, look at engage in that research, and make that decision personal to you. So I spoke of what matters to you, and I made reference to degree and university opportunities and using it as stepping stones. A lot of it will be about whether you have those career ambitions where you're looking at what you want to do in 4, 5, 6 years' time and thinking, how do I use this as part of that process? Whether you want to have opportunities to be able to go and do things like, for example, industrial placements, where you take a year out of your degree program, you work for a company, then you come back to the university for your final degree year, whether some courses offer these opportunities or not, whether you've got things like internships, what additional accreditations you can get. A lot of that will be your personal choice, looking at that and saying, right, what does my degree program offer me that enables me to be able to make that stepping stone and make that sort of pathway into next steps. I've spoken about this passion for learning, this passion for your subject. As we looked at earlier, you have options here in terms of combining different disciplines, combining different subjects together. So you've got options there to be able to do that. Drill into the detail, have a look at the modules that have been offered to you and think about whether the modules on offer are things that you really like doing, whether they align with your interests, with your subject interests, or whether they don't. And we will have a look in a second at an example of how things can be very different depending on where you apply to and what courses you go for. The final bit, obviously, is acknowledging that going to university isn't just about the study part. It's also about you developing yourself as an individual, as a human being, just sort of engaging with your local environment, so the culture that you'll be immersed in. And with that, what opportunities your degree program will offer you. So you've got options like the industrial placements, which I've mentioned, study abroad. So what opportunities available as part of your course? Field trips, where are those field trips taking you? What opportunities will you get to engage in perhaps environments you may not have encountered so far? But it's also about those extracurricular opportunities. So things like, for example, what does the student union provide? What kind of opportunities are available there? Is it sports that really sort of gets you wanting to be motivated, engaging in that? What sporting facilities are available? What sporting engagement is available within the institution you're applying to as well? So it's not just about the subject. Once you've made the choice about the subject, it's then looking at what the added ons to it, what extra you're going to live there for 3 or 4 years, making that choice based on all those different factors themselves. There are 2 ways that people will do this. And the first one is looking through this orange brownie sort of flowchart. The first bit is this is where you're at the moment. So you're doing your A-levels, BTEC, IB, the Welsh back. And with that, you then go, okay, I've got these subjects. I really like doing subject X. I'll look into the things that I can study as a result of having done that. And then having done that and looking through the opportunities at the university will help you in terms of your career pathways. We have fantastic career service that will then guide you through and say, well, you've done this subject, you can then think of these degree programs. Now, for most students, this is the pathway that they will take. It is less common for a student to say, I want to be a whatever it is in the profession, and then work back. But for some, they will follow the different routes, which is saying, well, I do want to be a doctor. And in order to be a doctor, there are only certain ways that you can do that in relation to the subjects you must have studied at prior to university. So we do ask for specific subjects there. And then it's also the degree programs you have to follow in order to achieve that goal. So for some students who will have a very clear idea of where they want to be and what they want to do in 10 years' time, they will follow the second approach, which is thinking about the career and then working back. For most students, you will follow the first approach, which is the A-level, then thinking of university, and then thinking, okay, What do I do? There is no right and wrong answer here. Both are equally as good. I wouldn't be scared, and the key message here would be don't be frightened if you don't know what you want to be doing in 10 years' time. Most people don't. So it's not a sort of huge worry there. Now, I want to illustrate something for you. Let's look at history, and we look at how we teach history. So in terms of history itself, we teach the subject where or it's taught across 148 institutions. The University of Exeter is one of them. You may be aware that in terms of the University of Exeter, we have several campuses. We've got 2 in Exeter, 1 in Cornwall. And in terms of that, we teach history on both campuses, in Exeter and in Cornwall. In relation to that, you'd probably be thinking, well, it's the same university, the same institution, it'll be the same way of teaching it, same subjects, same modules. It actually isn't. And part of that is because the academics, the teachers that we have on different sites will have very different interests, which will then lead to very different module choices being on offer for students. So you can see on there in that flowchart that the opportunities available for you to study in one campus will be very different to the opportunities you'll get in the other. Now, the key message here is that even within one institution, the way we teach these subjects are very, very different. And this is where I need to again highlight the importance of doing that research, finding that information, seeing what's on offer, and saying, okay, this is what I want to do, as opposed to this is what this is what I don't, and ruling things out based on that. Very broadly, running through entry requirements, you will be aware that universities will use different forms of assessment to decide whether they want to make an offer or not. Some will look at GCSE requirements, so they will look at your GCSEs. Some will look at specific subjects you're studying currently and say, right, does this meet the requirements? Some will ask for admissions tests. So, for example, medicine will use the UCAT exam, and others will ask for portfolios or auditions, depending on the subject you're going for. Now, across our spectrum of subjects, and at the University of Exeter, for example, we will only interview for a handful of courses. So we will make our choices and we will make our decisions on whether we provide an offer or not, primarily based on your UCAS form. And this is why it's so important, and we're going to be looking into further detail on what the components of that UCAS form and how we actually make sure that you promote and sell yourself in the best possible way, because for some or for most of our courses, we will primarily use that form to base our decisions. Not all universities are the same. Some universities will do this very differently. So again, make sure you understand how your university of choice will actually make that decision on how they're going to, whether they make an offer and invite you to study with them or not. The final bit to look at, and this is going to be a very brief overview, is very much ensuring that you understand what kind of university you're applying for, whether it's a campus or city university, reputation in terms of league tables, subject rankings, looking at student satisfaction. So part of that is saying, okay, what do current students tell me about the type of learning that takes place, the environment they operate in? They will really tell you as it is. So do find out more. You can find out through, you've got loads of opportunities to be able to engage with current students through university websites. So please go and sort of have a look at that. And the final bit, and it is where I'm going to leave you because we're going to focus on the personal statement element. But the final bit is looking at really making sure you do your research. Use resources that are available to you. You've got things like the UCAS form or websites. You've got prospects. You've even got the University of Exeter has a Discover University channel on Facebook, where you can really engage with it and find out more, really utilize experts who are out there to engage with different to audiences and find out more about what it is you need to do in order to submit really strong applications for your university choices. So that hopefully gives you a whistle-stop tour of how you're making that choice and how you're making those informed decisions on your applications. I'm going to hand over now to my colleague Vicky, who's going to talk to you a little bit about personal statements and what it is that needs to be included in the personal statement.
Okay, thanks, Carl. So yeah, I'm going to talk to you in this second section of the session about personal statements. Move on to the next slide. Hopefully, some of you are at different stages within the personal statement process at the moment. Some of you may have already started your personal statement, in which case, hopefully this session can help reaffirm and kind of go over some of the points that you've included and help you build upon some of those, maybe in a second draft. Some of you may actually be at the point at the moment where you're kind of sat in front of a blank screen and you're not quite sure where to start. So this session is designed to kind of help you create that plan and really get you started in writing your personal statement. The personal statement itself is an element of the UCAS application. Some of you may have already looked at UCAS and be familiar with the application process, hopefully. There are different components which include your personal information, your up to 5 course choices, your achieved and predicted grades, a reference which is submitted by your teacher or tutor, someone in your school, and then the personal statement, which is the section we're going to focus on today. And this UCAS application is completed online in different stages. So the personal statement itself gives you the opportunity to actually explain why you've chosen the subject or subjects that you want to continue to study at university level. It gives you that one opportunity to actually give a glimpse of who you are, actually a chance to show your knowledge and understanding of the subject that you're applying for at university level. It gives you the opportunity to demonstrate your enthusiasm and commitment for university in general, but more specifically, the subject that you're choosing to apply for. And it gives you that unique opportunity to actually sell yourself to that institution to pull you apart from some of the other applicants. So there are some guidelines that you have to be aware of when you're writing your personal statement. So I'll run through them really quickly, and you can find these on the UCAS website as well. It's important to remember that there's just one personal statement that's used for each of your UCAS choices. So it's important to remember not to mention any universities by name or write anything that's too specific for just one institution. This is particularly relevant if you're applying for different course types or for a flexible combined honours or a joint course where you may be referencing multiple subjects, making sure that what you're talking about is actually relevant to each of the institutions that's going to be reading it. And it might just take a little bit more time to plan effectively and make sure that it's reflective of each of your choices. There is a limitation in regards to characters and lines. So you have 4,000 characters, which is around 47 lines. We would always recommend that you actually write your personal statement in a Word document or something similar so that you can keep an eye on this count, and also so that you can amend it and save it and come back to it easily. Once that's then finished, you can then transfer it into your online UCAS application. And if you're looking at applying to a competitive university like the University of Exeter or universities within the Russell Group or Oxbridge, then we're really looking for 70 to 80% of the personal statement to be directly relevant to the subjects that you're applying for. So it's important to remember this when you're composing your personal statement and make sure that you're making statements that are directly relevant to the subject. And we're going to show you in an exercise we're going to complete with you how you can think about that in regards to this main body of the personal statement text. So the exercise that we're going to do, which is a bit of a visual exercise, which can be really helpful for some people, especially if you are struggling with that blank white screen, is to create this kind of rainbow image where we're going to build the layers of the personal statement. And hopefully you can then build upon that and use that to then start composing your actual personal statement and the text itself. So to start with this activity, we're going to look at the core. And the core is the kind of bottom small part of the visual rainbow. And for the core, we want to identify the subject that you're interested in studying. So you can write that in the middle. You can do it now if you want, or you can go back through it when you have more time, or you can just think about it and actually follow it in your head. So identifying the core, the subject you're interested in studying. We're then going to work on the first layer, where we're going to be looking at which parts of the subject you're interested in. And hopefully this should be quite easy for you to complete, because you should be able to know which subject you're interested in studying at university, which you're applying for, and you should have some kind of specific key areas that you're really interested in within that subject. And that should help build the first part of the diagram that we're hoping to create now. Next, we're going to move on to the rationale. And for this, we're going to look at why you've chosen this subject and what understanding you currently have. So you may want to make some notes and actually think about how you first became interested or aware of this subject or course. It could be that you're studying, an A-level or Welsh back at the moment, and that's actually sparked your interest and you want to continue that study on into higher education. It could be that you've chosen this subject because it facilitates a particular career and you need that degree to go on to become a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, for example. So thinking about the origins of your interest and maybe what sparked it as well. And that should help answer these questions and build the next section of the diagram, which is actually why. So why do you want to study this subject at university? We've then got the final stage. And this is the section that you should spend a little bit more time on, and hopefully the meatier part of this exercise, where we're looking at how you can demonstrate your understanding and why you are suitable to study this course. To demonstrate your understanding, you may want to think about something that's actually can give you some evidence, so something like a formula or a case study or a challenge or a project that you've worked on, that you can actually refer to and give as an example to actually demonstrate your understanding of that subject. You may have actually undertaken some wider reading or can pull out elements of your Welsh back, which can again give you some evidence and some examples to demonstrate your understanding of that subject. When we're looking at why you're suitable to study this course, this is where we may be looking for you to provide some evidence of some activities, extracurricular activities, work experience, or achievements that you have that you can then identify skills that you can bring to the university, which actually shows why you are suitable for the course. And we're going to talk about this in just a minute. But these questions should shape the last part of the activity, which is the experience. If you focus on each of these layers and make some good notes and expand on those to create some sentences and then eventually some paragraphs, this should give you a really good starting point for your personal statement, focusing on the subject, the specific areas that you're interested in, why you want to study that subject at university, and then providing some examples and some evidence of the experience you've got with that subject already. Undertaking this exercise should then allow you to start completing and putting it together as a piece of kind of coherent academic piece of writing. So hopefully that should help you when you're looking at how to get started and focusing on the questions that are really relating to that academic content, that 70 to 80% of academic content. We're now going to move on to the other thing that we look to be incorporated within your personal statement, which is the skills. And skills are really important to mention within the personal statement, but only within the context of the main body that we're focusing on. So to make sure that you're including the right skills and the skills that are really relevant to your personal statement, we're going to undertake an exercise in just a minute. And this is going to help you identify what skills you hold and what skills that are transferable, so what we call transferable skills. And these are skills such as communication, leadership, teamwork, time management, confidence, all of those kind of skills that you can transfer easily into different contexts. So we're going to identify which ones you hold. We're then going to look at where these skills have come from, how these skills have made you excel in your chosen area, and then actually look at which ones are relevant to the chosen subject and therefore relevant to include within your personal statement. And the way that you can do this is by undertaking an exercise similar to this. Again, you can do it now, or you can go back through and spend a little bit more time, because this probably will take a little while to actually get all of your information down. So to start, we'll focus on the accomplishments. And here you will put together a list of all of the accomplishments you've kind of achieved. And this will be very different depending on the individual. Some will have a really long, extensive list. Others may have a shorter list. That's absolutely fine. You're not going to input every single one into your personal statement. Things that you could put in here could be a part-time job, could be a project you've worked on, could be a volunteering opportunity, work experience if you've had the chance to undertake any. From that list, for each of those accomplishments, we'll then look at the skills that you've attained from that. And the kind of skills that you could have attained will be things such as communication, leadership, teamwork, the ones that we've just mentioned as transferable skills. The final column will then look at how this accomplishment and the skills that you've attained from that actually links in with your subject. And this will help keep the skills that you mention and the examples that you mention relevant to the personal statement. For example, if you're an active member within your volleyball team, for example, that's fantastic. You may be looking at applying for law. So you'll be wanting to identify the skills that you've achieved that are actually relevant for undertaking a law degree. Because if a law admissions tutor is reading that, they may want to be able to see the relevance to why you're mentioning that in relation to wanting to study law at university. So by undertaking this activity, it can really help you keep on track and make sure you're mentioning relevant examples and skills rather than just one-liners which don't fall very well within the piece of academic writing. So mentioning that you are, captain of the netball team or an active member in the debate team, or you've undertaken some voluntary work, that's great. But why is it relevant for studying this particular subject at university? And that's the link that you want to make. And this activity should help you do that. And it should help you identify which things you're then going to mention in your personal statement. So finally, we're going to move on to concluding the statement. And we mention this because it's just as important to spend a good amount of time composing the conclusion as it is the introduction. And it can be quite difficult to put together a conclusion and know where to start. So some things that we would recommend could be referring back to the reasons of why you want to study your subject at university. This really helps reiterate and leave those lasting points for whoever's reading it and know those kind of strong reasons of why you want to study that subject at university. Some of you may want to mention what you want to do in the future. This wouldn't be for everyone. However, if you do have a particular career in mind, such as, a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, I think I've mentioned those already, but this can really help you show that journey within your personal statement and actually prove that undertaking and achieving this degree is actually really important for you to be able to pursue that career and get to that end goal. So you may want to mention that. You could also talk about the experiences that you're hoping to get out of going to university. University is much more than just your degree and the academic qualification. There are a lot more experiences that you can obtain through going to university. So talking about that can show you as a well-rounded individual and also show how you're aware of the opportunities that could be available at university. So do spend a decent amount of time on the conclusion and maybe get someone to take a look over it as well. So just to finish up, we're going to look at some do's and don'ts. So we're going to start by saying do your research, and research in two ways here. So research in the sense that have a look on the UCAS website, have a look on the individual universities' websites that you're applying to. Each university should issue some kind of guidance on what they're looking for in a personal statement. So have a read over that before you start writing or as you're writing to make sure that you're actually including any specific things that universities have mentioned they're looking for. Also do your research in regards to the courses that you're applying to. Have a look at the modules they have on offer, or have a look at what kind of themes they offer to make sure that you're actually talking about relevant content. Do write what comes naturally and ensure it flows and has a good structure. Undertaking the activities we've just done should help you create a good structure for your personal statement. Do make sure that you write what comes naturally, in the sense that there are templates and you can get people's opinions, but you want to make sure that it's your personal statement. Check for grammar and spelling mistakes. It's a really easy thing to do. You can also identify these by getting it proofread. Getting it proofread is a great idea, but it could be helpful to just identify a couple of people to do this. If you get too many people to read it and too many people's opinions, it can end up moving into something that is actually quite different to the personal statement that you wrote in the first place and not your personal statement. Finally, do not include any misleading information, especially if you're applying for a course that's going to ask you to come in for an interview. They may pull up your personal statement and ask you about items within it. If you've included something that's a little bit misleading, this could get you into a little bit of a sticky situation. Also, we're making decisions upon what you've provided to us, so you do need to make sure that it is correct and not misleading in any way. Don't take risks in what you include. This is particularly if you're looking at using like a quote or a joke or some kind of controversial statements. You want to make sure that the content isn't too risky. You don't know the sense of humour of who's reading it or the views of who's reading it. So just make sure you get a second opinion if you are looking at putting anything too controversial or anything that's maybe taking a little bit of a risk in regards to the content. You don't want to kind of make sure it goes down the right way. You want to make sure it doesn't go down the wrong way. Do not plagiarise. There's plagiarising software which will be able to identify if they've seen that personal statement before. Don't leave it to the last minute. You've got plenty of time, and it's really good to make sure you don't oversaturate your workload. Year 13, there's a lot going on, so make sure you allocate your time well and don't leave it to the last minute. And finally, don't be afraid to ask for help. There's loads of people that can help you with your personal statement, both within your school and within university. So make sure if you do need some help, there's loads online, and don't be afraid to go and find it or ask for a little bit of help. You also may have parents or siblings or carers or guardians that may have been through the process that can help you as well. So that finishes off the personal statement part of this session. Hopefully you found it useful and picked up some tips at whatever stage you are in your personal statement writing process. And I'm going to hand back over to Carl to tell you about how you can stay up to date with any of the other stuff we've got going on.
So you'll see on your screen some information about our Discover University platform. We have a Facebook account that sort of has a lot of seminars, programs, workshops. You can also download information from there in terms of flyers and information sheets on personal statements, and we've got films about it as well. So please do come along to our Discover University Facebook page, Discover Uni EXE, which has a lot of information on there. If you do have any questions, please feel free to get in touch with us. You've got other contact details you can use on your screen to be able to engage with us and find out more information both about our university and also in general about any other information you may require to make that informed decision and choice on your application forms and make sure that it's successful. On behalf of Vicky and myself, good luck. We hope that it all goes well and hopefully see some of you around in Exeter in the coming year or two. Thank you.